Well, this episode had more assholes than you could shake a gaffy stick at. How's it going, everybody? This is Phil, and we are now on episode 6 of The Mandalorian. And in this episode, starts out right away. We have the Mandalorian. He comes into a docking bay on a space station, and right away we're introduced to the character of Rand. These guys are old friends. They used to do jobs together, and Rand has a job for the Mandalorian who's looking for some work. He seems to just be going from point to point. At this stage in the show, just kind of looking for work, trying to make his way and stay off the grid and out of the hair of the guild, who's got to be tracking him at this point. But I still would like to see a little bit more of that story pick up. So anyway, on the space station, Rand pretty much says to him, "Hey man, we need your ship. Let me introduce you to the crew." So the first person we get to meet is Bill Burr's character of Mayfeld, he's an asshole, and that seems to be the theme for this episode. All of these villains, they're all just really just dirtbags. I mean, they're easily unlikable. These two, they meet, and he says at one point, Rand says to him, he's the best, gun I have, or best trigger, something to that effect. And, he goes, used to be an Imperial sniper. And Mandalorian says it's not saying much. And he's like, "Hey, wise ass, I was a sniper, not a stormtrooper." So it's kind of cool that they acknowledge that, although it does kind of fly in the face of what Obi-Wan said in A New Hope, doesn't it?
And these last points, too accurate for sand people. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise.
You serious?
So then after that, they make their way down to the bay area over there, and the next person we meet is Berg, and Berg is a Devaronian, and that's those devil-looking creatures that we saw for the first time in A New Hope in the Cantina scene. So it's cool that we're getting some screen time for some of these obscure creatures that we've seen here and there in the Star Wars universe, but we've never actually given them any kind of real character to sink our teeth into. As far as live action is concerned. So after Berg, then we meet Zero, and he's their droid. And one thing I thought was pretty cool when Zero walks up, for those who are eagle-eyed, you'll notice that he's actually carrying the same EE-3 carbine rifle that Boba Fett has in Return of the Jedi. So it's the same exact blast, or at least it looked like it as far as the barrel was concerned. But I thought that was a neat little touch there, a nice little nod to the original trilogy. And then from there, we meet Xi'an, and she's a Twi'lek, and she is just really, really annoying. I mean, she just she hisses and she giggles, and she's kind of like a cross between Harley Quinn and Gamora, or and a drunk girl on Halloween, doing cosplay. So it's just like the combination of those three. It's like somebody I just don't want to be in the same room with. Anyway, they tell them the plan, and basically they need his ship because the Razor Crest it's pretty much off the grid of the old Imperial as well as the New Republic code, so it's a ghost, and they'll be able to kind of slip in and make their way onto this prison ship, which the Mandalorian ends up determining that this is a New Republic prison ship, and he doesn't want this kind of heat. He said this wasn't somebody who got picked up by a rival gang or anything like that. This is somebody who got arrested, and this wasn't part of the deal. And he's like, whatever, he's like, a job is a job. So reluctantly, he gets on the ship. And he heads off with these guys, and when you're on the ship with him, he's in a cockpit with Zero, and Zero's like, "You can go down, you don't have to worry about it, I'll take care of it." And he goes down, and he's there with the rest of the crew, and they're just not likable, right? I mean, they're villains. I guess this is what they're trying to establish, in this episode. At one point they want to take off his helmet, and they get into this big confrontation, and like you feel this tension that's building, and Berg and the Mandalorian, they get into it, and then inadvertently they open up that little area where Baby Yoda hangs out, and it's like, oh, here we go, and and then Mayfeld's like, what the hell is that? He's like, wait a minute, did you and Xi'an, you guys made that together? And and he goes up to it, and he's like, what, are you getting lonely out here, Mando? And he picks it up. And you're just like, what is going to happen here? Like, there's a lot of tension. It's like, this guy is outnumbered. Like, he can't possibly, in close quarters like this, he's completely going to get dismantled. So, fortunately, they come up to the Imperial ship. I'm sorry, the New Republic prison ship, and because Zero is doing everything so robotically, his movements actually shake everyone and catch him off guard, and it breaks the tension. So they're able to he gets Baby Yoda, he puts him back in his cell or whatever, and they make their way onto the ship. So once they get on there, they start making their way through the cell. Mandalorian doesn't like, he just has a bad feeling about it, and he takes out a bunch of New Republic droids, which for the first time, as far as I can recall, the first time we're seeing these droids. So that's pretty cool. They introduced these prison guard droids on this New Republic prison ship, and then they leave the Mandalorian to take him out, and he pretty much uses every trick in the book, and it's good to see, because these last couple episodes, we really haven't gotten to see him use all of his tricks and everything that he's got up his sleeve. So it was nice to see a battle scene where just Mandalorian squares off with a bunch of droids and just uses everything that he has at his disposal to take out all of these enemies. And then from there, they make their way over to the control center. When they open up the door, and there's a human who's actually manning the ship. Supposedly it was supposed to be all droids, and the Mandalorian is just like, you said this was all droids, and this wasn't part of the deal. It's always changing the deal. They and then for people who might be interested, the pilot who was actually in the control room was Matt Lanter. Matt Lanter is actually the voice of Anakin in the Clone Wars. So that was a nice little Easter egg, special guest appearance that they put there in this episode. So the Mandalorian is trying to discuss this over, and he pulls out a New Republic a tracking beacon. So if he sets that thing off, they're gonna have 20 minutes to get off the ship. And Mayfeld, he just wants to kill the guy. The Mandalorian wants to try and find some kind of peaceful resolution. And these two draw guns on each other, and they're going back and forth. And then finally, Xi'an, she throws one of her knives. She kills the guy. She ends the dispute just like that. But in all of that that went on, all of that insanity, this kid, the pilot, he manages to set off the beacon. So now it goes from a heist movie to like a race against time, where they gotta now find the person that they're trying to get off of this ship. So now everything has been alerted. Everything is going on. They're making their way towards the cell. They take out a few droids, and then they finally come up to the cell. Zero guides them, opens up the cell, and it's Quinn. Now, Quinn happens to be the brother of Xi'an, so he comes out. He knows the Mandalorian. They've met before. They have some kind of a past, and just as they get face to face, Berg punches the Mandalorian and just knocks him back into the cell. They close it on him, and he gets double-crossed, of course. I mean, you figured these guys, they've proven themselves to be nothing else but untrustworthy this whole way through. So they take off, and as this is all going on, the Mandalorian, he sees a guard go by, and he gets him with his grapple hook, and tears his arm off, and he guns him down, and then he uses the link in his arm to escape from the prison cell. And then he makes his way back to the control center, and he starts cutting them off from each other, and he kills the lights, he puts it onto like an emergency, and all of a sudden it becomes like it's almost like a Saw movie, right? The Mandalorian is like in a control center. He's going after him. So it shifts from a heist to a race against the clock. to like a horror movie. And the music, it does indicate that. It does kind of set this tone where it's like, now the villains, now they're being hunted by the Mandalorian, and they're like, well, what the hell, we got to get the hell out of here. They're cut off from each other. And it's like, it's almost like a slight bit of panic kind of sets in, because they got to get the hell out of there. And when this all happens, they lose contact with Zero, so he's not able now on the Razor Crest to guide them. He's not patched in to the schematics on the ship, and he's not able to track anybody, so he can't see what's going on. So they're all now blind, and this prison ship becomes this labyrinth, and it's just like, who's going to survive here? Who's going to get off this ship? And the Mandalorian's hunting them down. So one by one, he takes them out. The first one he takes out is Berg. He kind of leads them back to the control center. They get into a fight, and it's cool because you see the angle. He's kind of looking down at him, he gets him with the grapple hook, and Berg just rips him through the ceiling. This dude is strong, man. He's strong as hell, and he just he proceeds to just pummel the shit out of this guy. And thank God for the Beskar armor, because he drags his head across across the control console. But finally, and Mandalorian even hits him with the flamethrower, and this guy is impervious to fire, apparently. But eventually, he's able to trap him in the door, and he does his little trick from the initial episode, and it's just like, Jesus. And then all of a sudden, you see the door come up, and this dude actually catches the door, and he's hoisting it up. But while he's doing that, the Mandalorian throws a dagger, I think, or he hits a switch, and then the blast doors slam on him, and you're like, Jesus, this guy just got completely squashed in these doors. It's like totally brutal. And then from there, we catch up with Xi'an, and she's making her way through the corridors, and it's a cool shot because you see, like, the camera's got her in the front, and you see from from behind her the corridor, and the Mandalorian just kind of comes around the bend in silence, and it's almost kind of like Michael Myers, in a horror movie. He comes around the bend, and she can sense him, and she starts throwing all of her knives and daggers at him, and he's blocking it, and from afar she does all right, but once she gets close to him, he just handles her easily. Takes a knife, holds it to her throat. He's got her, and then finally from there, he takes out Mayfeld. And Mayfeld is the best one because he's making his way through the corridors. He's all alone, and he's like, you almost get the feeling like he's spooked. He doesn't know which way to go. Doors are opening. He's real jumpy, and at one point, like, a mouse droid goes by, and it startles him. And then again, the camera cuts to the front, and you're looking at Mayfeld, and you see down the corridor, and the lights are like flashing on and off, and every other flash, every other strobe, the Mandalorian is like closer and closer, and he's approaching him with his arms out like this, and it's it's very effective. If it was in a horror movie and he was a creature, it would be like a really, really tense moment. Really well done. I liked the fact that they use different elements from different genres of movies in this episode, and just all kind of like mash them up all together, and it works, when you use them all in the way that they've used them. So I appreciated that. It was really cool. Then from that point, the Mandalorian, he catches up with Quinn, and he says, you killed the others, and Mandalorian's like, hey man, they got what they deserved. And while all this is going on, actually Baby Yoda is back on the Razor Crest. He went into the cockpit, because that kid just doesn't sit still. He's a problem child. And Zero now is looking for him on the ship. It's this game of hide and seek. So anyway, the whole time, that's going on. Mandalorian's down there, and Quinn basically appeals to his code of honor. He's like, take me in, I'll see that you get paid. Then it cuts to Zero, and he finds Baby Yoda, and then Baby Yoda looks like he's gonna like use the Force on him, and his eyes are flickering, and all of a sudden, you get this burst, and you're like, for a second, you're like, oh shit, the Baby Yoda like blow this guy's circuitry in his chest, and then he falls. And you see the Mandalorian, and for a moment, Baby Yoda kind of like looks at his hand. He's like, "Did I do that?" Like he thought what everyone else was thinking for a moment. After that, They fly back, to the space station, and the Mandalorian, he delivers Quinn. Quinn says, where's the rest of the crew? Mandalorian says, no questions asked. That's the deal. And he's like, yep, no questions asked. So he gives him his bounty. This is just like old times. And then Mandalorian gets on his ship. He takes off. And then Rand, of course, being the asshole that he is, he's going to double cross him. And, he signals to kill him. And then a gunner ship comes up, and it's getting ready to take off. And at that moment, you see Quinn, and he kind of reaches in the back. And the Mandalorian picked up that tracking beacon, and he planted it on Quinn. And he doesn't know what it is. And immediately, Rand recognizes what that is. And then as you see the Razor Crest taking off, you get 3 X-Wing fighters come in out of hyperspace. They've located the homing beacon, and they're going to fire on that spaceport. They see a gunner ship coming out of the hangar, so they fly in and they take out the ship. They gun everybody down, blow away the spaceship. Interesting thing to note is that all 3 pilots are directors in this series. So you had Dave Filoni, and then you had Deborah Chow, and then you had Rick Famuyiwa, who is this director of this episode. So I thought, again, nice little Easter egg. First we got Matt Lanter as the pilot, and then now we get these 3 as X-Wing pilots. So really cool. Nice to see little things like that. It's fun for fans and people who don't know. Just they're like, oh wow, I didn't realize that. So nice little cool things. And then that's it. And then Mandalorian's back in the cockpit of the Razor Crest, and Baby Yoda's right next to him, and he's like, I told you this was a bad idea, And then he takes off the little knob and he gives it to him, and then they take off. And then at the very, very end, we see the New Republic prison transport going by, and then we see Xi'an is actually in the cell. And then she walks away, and we can see Mayfeld and Berg, and he allowed them to survive. And the episode closes out on that. So most likely, these are villains that we're going to see again. I don't know if we're going to see. I'm assuming Quinn and Rand are gone if that space station was blown to smithereens. But I like this episode. This episode, to me, the last 2 episodes, episode 4 and 5, they were a little bit of a step back. They were a little bit more quiet. They were quiet. They were kind of, especially episode 4 was kind of a decompression episode. They did have good moments, and I did enjoy both of them. I thought this episode picked it up a little bit, at least for me, as far as I'm concerned. I hated the villains. I mean, if the Black Series, if they wanted to do, Rand, Mayfeld, Berg, Zero, Xi'an, and Quinn, they could do like a whole asshole wave. Just have one whole series, set of figures for the Black Series to come out in a wave. They could do that. I hated them. I really hated them. But I got, it made it better when the Mandalorian got the best of them. So I mean, if they were setting them up in that way, then it worked. But I did find Xi'an, I found to be really, really annoying. Just a real asshole. So anyway, I liked the episode. I just thought it moved better. I like the action better. I like to see the Mandalorian, use all of his gadgets and all of his tools, to get himself out of a situation. And the other thing that's great about the Mandalorian is that he does stumble, right? He does fail. He has sometimes. Somebody gets the drop on him, and I think that's important for our lead character. For your lead character in any story, they can't be completely overpowered or infallible. They have to make mistakes, right? There has to be struggle, because when a character struggles, it's worth more when they overcome, right? It's earned. Something is earned at the end, at the climax. So. I think it's a good thing that, even though this character, he is badass, and at certain moments, like, he's completely in control. He has moments where, yeah, he does stumble, but he always picks himself back up and he moves forward, and that's a good character. It's a good hero character to have in a show. So these types of traits, this is what you want as far as a hero is concerned. So as far as this episode, again, I like it, but I'm at the point now where I want a bigger scope for this show. I'm okay with individual episodes, but now I thought this episode would have started a 3-episode arc to close the show out. We're running out of time. We know at some point we got to get back to the Bounty Hunters Guild and that whole story that took place in the first 3 episodes. I'm hoping that they give it enough time. This episode came in at 38 minutes, actual screen time, not counting the credits. 38 to 40 minutes. It feels a little bit more substantial. I think the episodes are better when they have a little bit more time like this to breathe. There were a lot of characters that were introduced in this show. So you kind of needed that. You needed to have the ability to hate them. You needed to develop them a little bit. So the screen time, gave you a reason to be invested in the Mandalorian, taking these guys out at the end. So I think this show would do better if most of their episodes were 40 to 45 minutes. It just feels better. It feels more substantial. And the average television runtime for an episode with commercials on like, NBC or CBS, it's only 42 to 43 minutes. So, at 38 minutes, this would be essentially the same runtime as if it was on network television. So, this is better. Let these episodes breathe a little bit. So anyway, guys, that's all I got on this episode. Again, I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying the whole series. It's been really fun. I'm looking forward to the climax, and I hope the next episode starts to build towards that. I really would like to see some kind of a 2-part grand finale take place here. We have all of these characters that we've introduced. Now let's play with them. We have this sandbox that we're building. Let's get all the toys in here and throw them all together and shake it up and see what happens. So let me know what you guys thought about this episode down below. Are you looking forward to the last 2 episodes? I know that I am. It's been a good ride so far. Next week's episode actually releases on Wednesday because The Rise of Skywalker comes out. So if you're looking for it, it won't be its normal Friday release. It will be on Wednesday, so look for it then. And that is the 18th. Other than that, that's all I got. So please, if it's your first time here, consider subscribing, and please take a moment to like the video and comment down below. And I will talk to you guys sometime soon. As always, be happy, be safe, be healthy. Have a great night, guys. Bye-bye.